I've been practicing law here in Pennsylvania for quite a long time, and I was a lawyer in New York for a while before that, and back in Philadelphia again at the beginning of my career. I've done all kinds of legal stuff. I was a corporation lawyer, house counsel. I was a Park Avenue lawyer for Fortune 100 companies, and then later I became a general practitioner here in Bucks County, where I work with people in Bucks, Montgomery, and Philadelphia County primarily. Sometimes Delaware, sometimes Chester County, but mostly the Tri-County region. In all those years, what I've discovered is that many people do not call lawyers when they need one, either because they don't realize they need one, or because, as is more often the case, they think they can handle it themselves, or as is often a lot of times the case, they know it can be an expensive process. Lawyers' reputation for charging precedes them. People know it's costly. And as a consequence, they often don't come to see a lawyer at all, or maybe, as often happens, well after the damage has already been done, and now want you to do something about it. And I had a case a lot like that in Philadelphia some years ago. It was a custody case. I do a lot of family law work. In this particular case, the husband came home from work one day and found that the wife had taken off from the house and took everything that wasn't nailed down. And I want you to understand, I'm not being kind of like telling a tale for effect. Literally, she took everything. She took the clothes, the light bulbs, the wall-to-wall carpet that left the tackless that attached to, took the carpets, took the furniture, the utensils, everything except his clothes and the 3 children, and disappeared for a while. He had had enough of a warning that was going to happen. He had been negotiating for himself, trying to make a deal. No matter what he said, she'd say yes, yes, yes. And one day he found out that all of his effort was for no effect. And now she had the children and all the property, and this poor fella was now stuck not knowing what to do. So he came to see me and said, this is my issue. And I said, well, you have a problem because this is going to be an uphill argument now. I'm sorry you didn't come to me before. It's kind of like when you are a plumber or an electrician and you get a phone call from somebody that says, something's broken, can you fix it? Sure. Will it be a lot? Not necessarily. Oh, by the way, I've been trying to do it myself for a while and things haven't really gotten better. You might understand that would change the answer, because an awful lot of what we have to do in this business doesn't seem like much. After all, here I am. I'm talking. Lawyers talk a lot, and people talk too. And because it's only conversation, it's only talk, and they've watched a lot of TV shows with lawyers, they have a pretty good idea what seems fair and what's reasonable to them. And so they think they can handle it themselves, which is understandable, but not the best practice. They say in this business that a person that represents himself has a fool for a client. Some years ago, I was divorced. I'm a divorce lawyer. I hired a lawyer to represent me. That's the only right thing to do, because you're too close to it. And if you're not a lawyer yourself, there's too much that isn't obvious that you need to know. Well, this fellow, I had his case. We litigated the divorce, but actually it was all about the children. He wanted the kids back. And so as a result, the custody part of this case is what I would call the divorce tail being wagged by the dog. You see, it was actually the other way around. Here's the custody tail wagging the divorce dog. It turned out to be a very, very convoluted, very hard-fought case on the divorce end, because everything that mattered was all about the children, and people could not cooperate on those issues, and it made it impossible to negotiate anything else. It went on for years. The only good news I can tell you is that at the end, without revealing any client confidences, it turned out like it should. My client did prevail. He got the kids back. But it cost an awful lot of time, and an awful lot of trouble, and a whole lot of money. And even though I try not to charge a lot, to not do a lot, when it's necessary, I'll do what has to be done. And we did it. It had a successful outcome, and never ever should have been going that far, because it took an awful lot of this man's life and his time and his money. And although he did prevail in the end, I don't think he was very happy, and it took years, not weeks. Because I myself, I can't watch lawyer programs on TV. When I watch lawyer programs on TV, I know what I see, and it makes me a little bit strange. Because I'll tell you what I see when I watch a lawyer's program on television. I'll bet you have too. Number one, the three things you see. The good guys always win, because things are fair. Number two, everything happens right away. Nothing takes years, nothing takes months. It happens between commercial breaks. And that's because it's television. And number three, nobody ever gives lawyers any money. Take a look sometime and see if that's not true. And here's what I have to tell you. Real cases are exactly like that, except for those three things. In reality, there's nothing fair about what happens in court. You get law in court. And a lot of times it's not very fair. If fair means that in the abstract, what you think is right should be right. Well, both sides think that, and both sides can't both be right. So no, there's nothing fair about it. If you want fair, I sometimes say you ought to go to church and light a candle. But when you go to court, you're going to deal with the realities, and a lot of times they're not going to recognize that kind of stuff. In the same vein, I can only recommend that clients ought to settle. I'm not afraid to go to court. I do all right there, but you ought to settle. And the reason why you ought to settle is because only the lawyers win when you go to court. People sometimes say, what's your track record in court? And I say, oh, I always win. Well, I get paid to go there. You don't. Why do you even want to go to court unless some stranger, if it's a civil case, or some jury of 12 people who don't even know you, and maybe they should, going to decide what to happen here, who don't know you and don't know what's going on in your mind and aren't going to be thinking of those kinds of things. You need a professional who does it a lot, who's not you, not personally and emotionally involved, to give you proper advice and guidance so that when you make decisions, you get the best possible outcome in a way that this outcome is predictable. For example, I get people come to me sometime, they say, oh, my partner and I, whether it's business or spouses or whatnot, we made a deal and I just want you to get this put together in nice language, make it happen. And you ask a few questions about what the deal is, and then you listen with a sinking heart. And then you have to explain to the person that's here talking to you that if you went to court and had a trial, probably that isn't how it's going to come out, and it might not be at all the way you think it's so good. My job is not to be a spoiler and make you feel bad. It's to let you know that if the deal you think you're making bears any resemblance to what ought to happen, or are you being taken advantage of, or worse, taking advantage of yourself. There's nothing wrong with being fair, whatever that may mean, or being a nice person, or being understanding of the other side of a matter. But if you take their side, you are committing the crime of treason. There is such a thing defined in the law as treason. It's giving aid and comfort to the enemy in wartime. You should never be treasonous to yourself. I'm Paul Brownstein. I'm here in Lower Southampton, able to serve and represent your interests anytime. Our initial consultation is never any charge, it's free. And you can come here and you will find that I'm not so unusual as not getting hired, not because I don't like you, because you don't really need to deal with a lawyer. I'll give you good advice in the meeting and you'll be treated properly, and come again some other day if you do need me.